Get this. Self-styled radical Cornell Law professor Saule Omarova, she being Joe Biden's pick to become Comptroller of the currency, well, she recently tweeted reckless and ignorant praise of the Soviet Marxist system. Yeah, that would be the system that trained her throughout the 1980s. How strangely apropos for both the Biden administration and actually the position itself. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. Ah, yes. This woman is an adversary of cryptocurrency who wants a Federal Reserve digital currency.
And she's been highly critical of big banks and tech companies alike. On digital currencies, she called them untethered from the real economy and suggesting that they could even detract from growth.
She's an American lawyer who praises the USSR. Here's what Biden Comptroller of the Currency nominee Saule Omarova tweeted recently that finally drew her some attention. Quote, "Until I came to the U.S., I couldn't imagine that things like gender pay gaps still existed in today's world. Say what you will about old USSR, there was no gender pay gap there. Market doesn't always know best." End quote. Which is to say that she thinks it's not best for free people to make decisions for their own lives, precisely what the free market allows. All other systems are based on forms of political coercion and the replacement of personal values with, of course, government diktats and political game rigging. But this, of course, makes sense for a woman trained in the insane Marxist ideology whose followers killed an estimated 61 million people in the USSR between 1917 and 1987. As the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal recently observed, quote, "She graduated from Moscow State University in 1989 on the Lenin Personal Academic Scholarship. 30 years later, she still believes the Soviet economic system was superior and that U.S. banking should be remade in the Gosbank's image." End quote. Hey, do you think anyone in Congress or the Biden camp will ask this nominee to disavow her academic scholarship and denounce Vladimir Lenin, who started the Marxist slaughter in October of 1917, even before he, Stalin, and Trotsky took power in November of that year? I think it's doubtful, because her very nomination to this position indicates philosophical agreement with and promotion of her Marxism. And we'll get into that in a little bit. And of course, it's unlikely that anyone in D.C., including most members of the GOP, will speak truth to power against her blithe, media-coddled reiteration of the gender pay gap mythology either. Well, simply put, we'll do this here. There is no gender pay gap in the United States. Men and women often choose completely different lines of work, choices that are not products of a sexist structure of social expectations. Men enter riskier professions. They work longer hours and they don't leave jobs to have kids. Factors that all are based on personal individual choices and are not foisted on people. As economist John Phelan noted in 2018 for the Foundation for Economic Education, the methodology behind the gender wage pay gap is a myth. Quote, "It ignores the fact that according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, in 2017, men worked an average of 8.05 hours in an average day compared to 7.24 hours for women." And he noted, quote, "And there are differences in the type of work men and women do, which bears on their earnings. BLS data shows that in 2017, 94% of child daycare services workers were female, the highest percentage of any category, and that the mean annual wage for child care workers was $23,760. By contrast, just 2.9% of workers in logging were women, the lowest share of any category. And the mean annual wage here was $42,310, end quote. And for more details, fantasists like the Biden crew can read the 2018 study by Harvard's Valentin Bolotny and Natalia Emanuel. a study that even looked at unionized transit workers in Boston to note, quote, "We see women prioritizing schedule convenience more than men in other respects. As operators move up the seniority ladder and consequently have a greater pool of schedules to pick from, women move away from working weekends, holidays, and split shifts more than men. Women are more likely than men to take less desirable routes, defined as those routes along which men experience more accidents, to avoid the less preferable schedules." End quote. As Ash Scow notes, quote, "As I have reported time and time again, the gender wage gap can be attributed almost entirely to the different choices men and women make in their careers, and what can't be explained that way cannot conclusively be linked to any kind of discrimination. Thus, it is not a wage gap, but an earnings gap, because it is measured by the median or average amount of money a woman earns at the end of the year versus the median or average amount a man earns." End quote. Scow also reminds readers that even the leftist Atlantic admitted in 2018, quote, "Comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges, women earn close to what men earn. Women in similar workplaces with similar titles and similar credentials make pretty much what their male peers do, whether they are fast food employees making close to the minimum wage or corporate executives making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year." End quote. Oh, but the mythology of the gender wage gap sounds very justicey, and of course, it falls in line with the anti-free market, anti-private property, David versus Goliath rhetoric of Karl Marx, something Ms. Omarova appears to embrace. As Kevin Catapano writes for the Western Journal, quote, "Omarova later conceded that while there may not have been perfect gender equality in the Soviet Union, it did get one thing right. People's salaries were set by the state in a gender-blind manner, and all women got very generous maternity benefits, both of which are still a pipe dream in our society. Oh yeah, have the state set prices of everything and see how well supply can fulfill demand. You know, such paternalistic price setting is a bad idea. It creates shortages of valued things and overages of unwanted things. And of course, it creates terrible problems for consumers because they're not allowed to show their interests by freely engaging in commerce. And of course, such diktats lead to gaming of the system, as the Harvard researchers discovered within the Massachusetts transit system, the MBTA. They found that men discovered crafty ways to use the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, the FMLA, to their advantage. Quote, "We find that male operators exploit FMLA to game the system. By substituting unpaid hours for overtime hours, they actually increase their earnings. When faced with having to work a weekend shift in a particular week, men take more unpaid time off that week than in non-weekend shift weeks. They also, however, work more overtime hours in weekend shift weeks, effectively trading off hours paid at regular wages for overtime hours paid at 1.5 times their wage." End quote. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hey, remember, YouTube, like and subscribe. I'll see you in the comments section. It's always great to read your comments. See you on Rumble as well. I'm on Twitter at Gard Goldsmith. I'm on Gab at Gardner Goldsmith. We'll see you on Facebook. MRC-TV is rocking on Facebook. Thank you for all your great interaction. We'll see you on TikTok. We'll see you on, Instagram. Oh, and always, MRCTV.org. MRCTV.org to see what the whole team's doing. For MRC-TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.